Hey y'all, Samantha, Sam I am, Swirls and Swags, Decor. Welcome y'all. Today we are going to be making a Christmas Nutcracker Mailbox Swag. I love making mailbox swags. I do make my own frames, but I bought these items that we will be using to attach, which is the hat, and I have the legs. Later I will have the face. So I will let you know what all I'm using as we go, or you can look in the description because there's a lot. But I do make my own swag frames. This one measures 30 inches. You can obviously buy them, but I do like making my own. But anyway, I have 10 ties on the outside and I have 3 in the center. I don't have 3 yet, but I will toward the middle and toward the end, whenever y'all, because you will need those in the center brackets to help cover up your frame. So I'm showing you some of the ribbons I'm using. You know, I'm just matching my design, and I'm using what I have, 2.5 and 1.5, 2.5 and 1.5 inch ribbons, y'all. Sorry, words are hard. So thanks for watching. Hang on, we'll try to get through this one as quick as we can. This was about 5 different days of Facebook lives, from 2 to about 3 hours each day. But again, you know, I'm Southern, we like to talk. Okay, first off, we're going to use our 21-inch mesh, and this is just a piece of a roll that I had left over, and so I fold it and I fold it again and I zip tie it to my frame. You don't have to zip tie, but I prefer that. You can just fold it into your tie, twist it in, whatever you like to do. Now I cut off the excess mesh and I use zip ties, like I said, and I have a zip tie cutter. Those are the greatest things. Don't leave no sharp edges, so you nor your customer, if you're making this for someone else, then they won't get cut either. My poofs are 14 inches, and y'all remember there's 21 inches of mesh up in there. When you get done making your swag, covering it up with your 21-inch mesh, go and pull some of that out. You want to fluff it out as much as you can, because that's a lot of mesh. I finish with the mesh, I zip tie it to the back of the frame as well and cut off the excess. In a minute you're going to see that I take the other piece that I had and I cut it in half, and I make like a large curl, 2 curls on each side of it, and I put it through my center, so I just help cover up my frame. That's not jute. I don't know why y'all, I always want to call it jute tubing. It's mesh tubing, y'all. And a lot of times your edges will fray on that as well, so you'll want to, you know, trim any excess off that's frayed on the end of your tubing. Here's where I'm curling my piece of the 21-inch, and I'm going to make just a poof in the center, but I'm tying it across from one tie across the frame to the other tie, and I do the other with the other piece I have, and that helps, and it keeps my color cohesive throughout the design. And then later on I'm going to be adding some other stuff, so there's lots of things going in this. I have a green 10-inch mesh, and every mesh I use, the green, the red, and the gold, they all have foil, and it really gives it a shiny sparkle. Sorry, that was my dog plopping down. So, you know, you can use as much or as little, you know, however you want to do it, but this is just how I do it different every time I make one, to be honest. But after this, I'm going to add the green over the top, and I'm just zigzagging it back over and around, and just adding more color and covering up the frame. And then I'm going to be going in with the red and the gold, and I'm going to use a wood burner to cut my pieces. You can definitely just cut them like you normally would with a rotary knife. And I have a mat for my rotary knife, and I have a glass that's tempered when I use my wood burner. But if your glass is not tempered, you will wind up in a hot mess. So don't use glass that's not tempered if you decide to use a wood burner. And remember, it burns wood, it will burn your floors. Be careful with your children and dog, pets, what have you. I'm showing you here, I have a faux mailbox. It's actually a paper mailbox. A friend of mine nailed it to some boards and made it where I could bring it in the house and make my designs. Also, there's a really cute way of using your ribbon spool holder. I just used a little bigger dowel and put my roll of mesh on there. You could use a paper towel holder if you wanted, or you can throw it in the floor like we usually do. But anyway, there's that. So when I get done with the green, then I'll be adding in the other pieces, and I'll pop in and let you know what I'm doing as it happens. FYI, I mean to say this at the beginning, but I don't think about it. Anyway, if you need to slow this down or speed it up, hit that gear at the bottom of the video and you can change the speed of it if you need to. Okay, these cut pieces, the gold and the red that I'll be cutting, I'm just going to be curling them. I usually like to go 12 or 14 inches just because I think that helps cover up any fray. And when you do make your curls, you want to make sure you have your seam side down towards your frame into the tie, and that will keep the fray from being as seen and or noticeable and tugged on. And then I'm just rolling them up. I'm using like a clothesline pin, and I'm bundling them, and then I make like a shoe loop bow with my tubing. And don't pull that tight, y'all. If you've never used it, it's very elastic, and so if you pull it tight, then when you let go, it's going to shrink up. So leave it loose in your hand and make you a shoe loop bow or whatever you want to do, and then just add it to the top of your curls and put them in. I was telling you, my curls are around 12 to 14 inches long. You can make them as short as 10, but I prefer at least 12, but you know, you can do shorter. And then I'm just going around the entire frame and adding in bundles in every tie. And again, there's going to be 13 total. I did make a bow, y'all, and I used Pro Bow the hand. And so that will be linked later when I do that tutorial, because it's more in depth and I'm not a pro with it, but I do try. You know, you got to try, y'all. Here's I'm adding in the other pieces that I'm going to be putting through the center of the frame. I told you I'd be adding in some more pieces on the top on your crossbars, and here we are. So that's what I'm doing. And y'all, these attachments I got from my local florist shop, and they're styrofoam. They're thick styrofoam and coated, painted, and glittered and all the things. So I'll be showing you how I attach those in a minute. When I do attach, I use 22 gauge wire. Now when you make your bow, like I do with the Pro Bow the hand, I use 26 gauge wire. The higher the number, the thinner the wire. I do not trust 26 for much of anything, but to hold a bow while I make it, I will. But then we're going to go around it with a zip tie and that kind of thing, because we don't want it to come apart. So as I continue on, I'm just going back in and adding those pieces through the center of my swag. And then I'm going to be taking some felt and a stapler, and I'm going to staple my 22 gauge wire to the back of my attachments. And I'm showing you that right there, y'all. And I know I keep interrupting myself, but things happen so fast. But that red is, I got it from a lady I did de-stash with, y'all. I can't speak. And it is like a plastic banding that has been glittered. And so it's really cool, and it's kind of like it goes around your columns. But hang on 1 minute. I'm sorry for the interruption, y'all. When you work from home, that's what happens, you know, life. Okay, so I was saying about the attachments. I use my 22 gauge wire, and I have some felt that I cut pieces of, just enough to cover up my staple, but I use hot glue on top of my staples and then the felt. Don't burn yourself. I use a silicone little putty thing I got from the Dollar Tree, or a pen or scissors or something. Don't, you know, I do use my fingers, but y'all, it's a mess and you'll get burned. So that's what I'm fixing to do. Now those legs, they have wire pre-made into it. I'm showing you where it goes to on his little leg. And so you just wire those straight to your frame. And so I was choosing between the faces, but we are going to go with the red one. I just love the color. Then I bought one single nutcracker to go on the opposite side of the mailbox, and because otherwise it would just have a bow. Now I did make two bows, and one's a little bit bigger than the other, not by much, but a little bit. So you see me stapling in my wire, 22 gauge, and I just cut a piece that's long enough to go through all of my mesh. And I do use a yarn needle. It's metal. You can get them from Walmart. They are really good to thread your wire through and then poke it straight through all that thick mesh. Or if you have to, sometimes, like a bow here in a few, when you attach your bow, a lot of times you need to push your wire through like a thick bundle. You may not have a part of the frame that you like to place it. So I try to go through a thicker bundle, and when I do that, I use my pliers to help pull that needle on through if I have to, and there's times you do. So I'm showing you different ways that it can hang on the mailbox and how you would wire it together. So the short end where your frame ends, I would wire my 22 gauge around that, and then when it's under the mailbox, you pull that wire around the other side of your frame and tie it down snug. But don't pull it so tight that the top of your poof of your swag is flat. There's the yarn needle. But if you pull the swag too tight, it's going to be flat across your mailbox, and it's not going to be very pretty. Also, be sure what size your customer or whoever you're making one for, what size your mailbox is. Some mailboxes are really, really large, and some are cement or brick, and so you would want to make sure that you have the right sizes to go around those size of mailboxes. And so there's that. I'm attaching the hat to be on top of my mailbox, and that's why I was like laying it across my faux mailbox, and I'm showing you under the frame where I'm pulling my wire down to, and I'm tying that hat down. Now I do have two different wires coming off of his hat, so I can brace it to one side of the swag and one wire to the opposite side, just to hold it snug where it don't flop around. You know, however you want to twist it down, but that's how I prefer to do it on my frames. And then I'm cutting off any excess wire, and I like to take a little bit of hot glue and put on top of that wire after I bend it around as best I can, just so I don't get poked, my customer don't get poked, etc. And now we're going to attach the face, and then we'll wire in the legs because he has his own little wires. But y'all, it turns out super cute. Okay, next I'm going to be adding in his little legs, y'all. They're cushiony, and they've got like a felt for the boot with trimming, and then that wire inside. And it looks like I'm just having a heyday with his poor little legs, but I'm trying to get it down through the mesh and to my frame and get it tied in. So there's that. When I gave it to my customer, she's local, but I had his little legs crossed. I thought it was so super cute, but you can obviously do however. And but yeah, he turns out so super cute. I'm showing you how I tied it into the frame, and yeah, I love the overall whimsy of all nutcrackers. So that's what it would look like on the mailbox, y'all. And then I forgot, at the very end, I'm going to be adding in some glitter balls. I like doing that to my designs, no matter what I'm making normally, especially whimsical and Christmas holiday. It adds that extra sparkle. So I go around and put the glitter balls, I just poke a little hole, and then I add glue, hot glue, and attach them to the pipe cleaners and twist ties, what have you. And so that just adds more whimsy. So I appreciate you watching, and please, by all means, if you decide you want to try this, let me know. I will be trying to upload a video on how I make my swags. I had one, I've lost it, but we'll try to find it. But if you have any questions or comments, please let me know in the comments below, and hit that like and subscribe. I appreciate you so much for watching, and I hope y'all have a wonderful day. I love that bow, so I'll try to get that tutorial up soon too. Y'all have a wonderful day. Thank you so much.